Next up, actually, interestingly, someone who I've kind of met with and through Mitch is Casey Jones. And Casey I met, God, I've known him for years and years and years. But one of the things he's most famous for is when he ran marketing at Dell while Mitch was running marketing at Microsoft, which means they worked together a lot in the industry. He attempted to completely reimagine how an agency would work. And I think one could say that that was a fabled attempt that didn't quite work out. But he had some ideas with that agency, which was named Enfatico, I believe, at the time, which he never let go of. And a couple of years ago, he called me. He was all excited because he was going to continue to work on that idea in his own company, in a startup, and he asked me to become a pro bono advisor. So caveat, I am a pro bono advisor. I have no actual share in the company that he started other than I'm excited by the idea and I want you to learn about it. So I asked Casey to come and announce what he's doing. And it has a lot to do with what Mitch was talking about as to how the agency model might need to change. And Casey has identified one part of it that he thinks is central to doing a better job both as an agency and a client, and that has to do with the brief. So I won't bring up any more than that. I'll let Casey explain it to you. Please welcome Casey Jones.
Appreciate it. Thanks for being here. I think the CM Summit and Federated Media are two of the most important things happening in our world. The kind of insights and the kind of education that you get following John Battelle and following Federated Media. I was an early adopter. I think when John and I met, very first time I walked into his office with 21 pages of notes from his book, The Search, and really believed in it. John's also a journalist, and he and I were discussing yesterday the impact of this unusual event in BriefLogic's life and my life, where Ad Age reported on BriefLogic and on us and what we're doing a couple weeks ago to an astonishing level of response. I think in the 2010 Ad Age hottest articles of the year, we went and counted how many copies or how many comments were made, how many Facebook likes were made on that article, top article in 2010, and it was 55 comments and 28 Facebook likes. And then 2 weeks ago, this article ran, follow-up article ran, a counterpoint by a creative person, 89 comments on the first article, another 15 from the creative article, 400 Facebook likes between the two of them, just indicating that the concept of the interface between agencies and corporations, as Mitch said, it is hard. The model is, you could say, broken, but I love the way she said it's an opportunity. And the question is kind of briefs. Do we care? How many people care? The people who care are the creative people who receive them from clients, the marketers who have to write them and create them. But it's all about the intersection. If you look at this, the intersection between all of the gears happening on the corporate side to build and create products and bring them to market, and then a very small pipe of information called a campaign brief or an assignment brief, a tactical brief, and through that small pipe on the other side of the chart, all the other gears turn, that all of the agencies and the agency ecosystems that exist in large companies have to then execute. And one reason it's a hot topic is because a brief, the direction, the decision, the plan, the proposal is the most valuable media in marketing communications. We think of Super Bowl and World Cup and all that stuff as very expensive, but a brief, if done well, can lead to complete brand transformations. I saw this at Microsoft. David Webster is here somewhere as the Chief Strategy Officer at Microsoft, and we kind of lived together for 3 years working on a campaign codenamed Polaris that became their B2B campaign. Transformative things happen if the direction from the corporation is right. A brief is also the single most expensive medium of communications in marketing. Done poorly, it wastes 100% of the marketing spend on any given campaign or on any given assignment. The record in my life is watching a brief from a marketer change, switching marketers, a change in strategy, and in my opinion, the new brief to the agencies wasted $600 million worth of the corporation's money. And the question that comes up is, why is this hard? Why is it hard to direct an agency? Why is it hard for an agency building a scope of work or a proposal or getting agreement on it? Why is it hard for them to communicate? I mean, we are professional communicators. How bad can this be? There's a landmark study in 2009 by Greenberg that said if they went out and asked agencies that are client-facing individuals working with Fortune 500 brands, and one of the questions asked in the survey was, how much of your time and energy as an agency is wasted as a result of poor input at the start of the project? 30%. 30% of all agency time and energy is wasted. At Wanamaker, everybody's familiar with the Wanamaker axiom. I know that half of my ad budget is wasted. I don't know which half. Well, at BriefLogic, we don't know which half either, but we know precisely which third. The current state of briefs, we've reviewed over $6 billion or $2 billion worth of briefs, line by line, paragraph by paragraph, component by component over the last 2 or 3 years, starting, interestingly enough, on Mitch Matthews' behalf at Microsoft. And this is a snapshot of how bad the input looks. The agreement documents between agencies and agencies of all kinds, media agencies, PR agencies, social media agencies, digital agencies. This is how bad the input is on a 1 to 10 scale, 10 being what agencies wish that corporations could give them, and you can see the components that are truly screwed up in this process. And we blame, collectively as an industry, we blame the complexity of our business. We've got so many moving parts. And it's astonishing to watch FM Signal and see all of the speakers that have preceded us yesterday, and all of them at Signal Austin and coming up at Signal Chicago and Signal LA and Web 2.0, and all of these corporations literally adding component parts, potential component parts to the campaigns. And is it complexity that is screwing up our capacity to take a brand to market? I love Jim Stengel. If any of you follow Jim, former CMO of Procter & Gamble, once said, the hard truth is that we are in a $450 billion industry, and we are making decisions with less data and discipline than we apply to $100,000 decisions in other parts of our business. We use less data and discipline in applying travel policies in our business. One of Mitch's team said to me once, I can't go to San Francisco and rent a $300 hotel without 2 layers of management approval. And he slides a deck over to me and he says, but I can approve a $5 million marketing campaign. What is going on here? Is complexity coming from too many parts? There's just too much. We can't possibly integrate this. And I've just been a passionate believer in brand and agency integration since the start of my career at Ogilvy, when David Ogilvy and his team launched what they called Ogilvy Orchestration. I drank the Kool-Aid there, and I've never stopped believing that agencies can do a better job integrating on behalf of brands. We know it's complex, but it's like we've given up. We're all focused on building more and cooler parts for the campaign machine, but we've given up figuring out how to fit those parts together precisely. And what is striking is we're not more complex than the people who build skyscrapers. We are not more complex. I am a giant fan of Intel. I almost tattooed Intel's logo on my arm once when I went to work running that campaign for EuroRICG. Intel builds really complex things that are really small, and they're extraordinarily precise, and there are a massive number of people involved. Do you know how many subcontractors there are working on aircraft manufacture? Why can they build complex things, and we struggle with building complex things? What's different? I mean, we're building campaigns that integrate all of these astonishing technologies and social media, all of these moving parts that go into a campaign, and increasingly complex as John hosts more and more technology companies coming in with more and more cool things that marketers could buy. What is the difference between how we manufacture campaigns and how they manufacture things in the physical world? Well, number one, they plan. They're dead serious about planning. People who make physical things have been focused, the engineers in the world have been focused on design before build for thousands of years. They don't build stuff and then say to the guy funding it, hey, how you like this? Oh, it's not what I wanted. Tear it down, throw the materials away, build something else. Hey, how do you like this? No, that wasn't what I wanted. Well, they're not sure what you want in a marketing campaign. They are precisely sure when manufactured objects are made. And the second thing that they do is they write those plans down. They codify them. They write them down so that there is no miscommunication. That's what happens in architecture. That's what happens in software design. That's what happens in complex manufacturing. That's what happens in building. And that is not what happens in marketing. It is not what happens in brand campaign and brand development. The third thing that they have is these people have tools. They have astonishing tools. They've been working on tools and improving their tool set to plan for thousands of years. To give you one example, Autodesk has been making a product for I don't know how long, but it's computer-aided design, computer-aided manufacturing. My partner, Dion Lewis, is here. He has a son in industrial design. Do you know how much time they put into design before they build anything? And they use software, technology running on hardware to make sure that all of those parts fit together before you go into fabrication and before you go into build. The fact of the matter is that when you compare the design, the campaign design tools that we as marketers have with any other industry, Stengel is right. Less planning, less discipline than any other part of Procter & Gamble's business, and I would submit to you any other business. So everybody building physical things has immense investment and passion and belief in tools. What do we as marketers have? What do those of us have that are living at the intersection between all that stuff that the corporation is invested in, and then on this side, the massive amount of agency time, media, fees, production dollars, and execution that brings that astonishing product or service to life? What have we got? And I'm not knocking Microsoft. I love Mitch. I worked with her closely for 3 years. We have Microsoft Word. Our plans are written in Word on blank sheets of paper. We are spitballing in comparison with what any other industry is doing. And we've got text messaging. We've audited $2 billion of briefs. What we found out from many agencies is briefs are coming in now as text messages and voicemail messages. Oh, and we have meetings. Another interesting thing, David Webster, I think I mentioned, is here, a chief strategy officer from Microsoft, once said, at Microsoft, we produce two products, just two products, email and meetings. A lot of both. Well, the last 2 years, BriefLogic has been working on improving that, and this is, in essence, state of the art. This is an example of the platform that all Verizon wireless marketers now use. We've taken all of our learnings and research over 2 years, and we've built them, of course, into Microsoft Word. And the difference is all of the tasks that those marketers have to do, whether it's a social media program or a PR program or an event or anything else, has a specific input document for that task. And guess what? All the marketers can hyperlink out to content that gives them just-in-time training so that they can know how to fill that out. Because I promise you, they don't know. Nobody's taught them, nobody's trained them, and with the exception of John Harabin and his team at Verizon, nobody has ever stood up and said, you're going to learn this and you're going to get good at this, because if it's going to be important because it's going to be in your next performance review. But right now, as of right now, this is best in class. How do we know it's best in class? We work closely with the ANA and their School of Marketing, and we deliver all of their brief training content in partnership with them. And we asked them when they invited us to come in and work with them, we said, so where's the best practice briefing in the world? There isn't one, and I promise you, the ANA they are passionate hunters of best practice. They scour the world, and if they knew of a better program, they would tell you, and BriefLogic would have some competition. But is great Word documents with hyperlinks out to training content good enough? It is not good enough. It pales in comparison to other design tools. It was never intended to be. The decision to create this kind of interface platform happened a long time ago. It's just taken until now to create it. This is intended to be. What we've simply done is we've taken all of the best practice tools, all of the best practice input, what agencies want to hear from corporations, from marketers, and the kind of things agencies need to use to design the proposals and programs they give to corporations, and we've built it into SaaS. It's like marketingforce.com. It is integration in the cloud. It's design in the cloud. It's a software applied to the upfront planning process before you waste all the money building campaigns that you have to then redo. And a brief, we see it as a manufactured product. The author of the brief, the poor person right down there, kind of mid-level in the corporation, needs to access data from pricing teams, from device teams, from competitive analysis, from their agencies who have deep insights into the target audience analysis. And all of that needs to be staged like parts, like raw materials, so that they can access it when they need it, and they can drop it into the brief, or it's already there as default content. We've tried to create a system where the CEO or the CMO can come up with an insight. A chief strategy officer like David can come up with an insight, or the agency can, and in one moment, in one instant, every agency in the world, every corporate marketer in the world that is engaging an agency on any assignment, every single one of those assignments is impacted by that thinking 5 seconds after the corporation has made that decision. We first presented this, I remember 2 years ago, this concept in general to an ANA board member, John Kennedy at IBM. And he looked at it, he said, I've been watching presentations from agencies for 25 years. I have never had anybody bring this up. You guys may have invented like input economics. And I said, can we steal that idea? Can that become our tagline? Maybe you're right, because IBM invented the phrase garbage in, garbage out. We actually think that the new phrase should be quality in, therefore quality out. It's a syllogism, two hypotheses, or two statements, premises with a conclusion, quality in, quality out. One of our founding partners is a professor of logic, former chairman of the Department of Philosophy at UT, Dan Bonavac. And it's like, this is bulletproof. If garbage in, then garbage out, therefore quality in, quality out. It's simply logic. We call it BriefLogic. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Casey. Thank you very much. I appreciate the chance to. I'm looking forward to seeing what this does in terms of the rest of it, because as a publisher, we have a lot of publishers out here, we get the end result of those briefs, and they're called RFPs. And then we think
we have a module for that too.
We think we're answering those RFPs, and then we get told that the brief changed like a month beforehand, but it somehow never got down the chain to the RFP. So we spend all this time coming up with these ideas to try to make the marketer happy with all of our publishing partners, and then it turns out, oh, the brief changed. It would be so much better if we could just be connected, you know, as a module on that SaaS system so that we could input to it and actually be part of it. So I'm hoping this catches on.
Absolutely. If Federated Media, all a marketer like Mitch needs to do is say that Federated Media is a trusted partner, and BriefLogic assigns John's team a module, and then they become part of the process, and any marketer can assign a task to John's astonishing team. They can assign an input request. Hey, what do you think about this issue, and drop it in. So that, you're right. You know, I don't know, honestly, we don't know what impact it'll have on the total downstream media companies, but more media companies are creating content, which means they should have access to the original direction.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All
Appreciate
right,
it,
take
John.
care.